Yeah, the Wednesday edition, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf hanging out with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all, studio at the Avenue. In beautiful downtown Milwaukee, Joshy DiMaggio with me, as always, here in Milwaukee. Producer Tiny Hands, who we did not get to hear from much on Monday's special 2-hour edition following the Packers loss to the Eagles, is back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Looking forward to getting some of his thoughts on Mike McCarthy's departure from his Dallas Cowboys and obviously where the Packers go from here. What now? As they are eliminated from the playoffs, get ready for the draft in Green Bay coming up in April, and then ultimately the offseason into training camp and to next season, because there are some things the Packers need to clean up, they need to fix, they need to address, and we will address those coming up in a little bit here on Mr. Irrelevant. Want to kind of dive into what the blueprint for the offseason should be for Green Bay, and I know Joshy is going to have some ideas when it comes to what the Packers need to emphasize, prioritize, and look into this offseason. So we will get to that momentarily. But first, as we've been doing recently, I want to jump into the time machine to this past March. My college roommate, Max, is a huge Marquette fan. And back in March, he gave me a little present. Take a look. Marquette fan. And I opened the package, and here I pull out a Tyler Kolek.
I love it.
NIL t-shirt that actually undeniably goes very hard. Tyler Kolek NIL shirt. Tyler Kolek actually made money on this purchase, and Max decided I was the guy to wear it. So I now have a Tyler Kolek t-shirt. I don't know how often I'll wear it, but it is kind of sick, so I'm in on it. But,
I mean, they should go further than Wisconsin this March, so you'll have some opportunities.
Yeah, well, so there you go. That's my Tyler Kolek t-shirt. And by the way, they did go further than Wisconsin in March. Now, my buddy Max and my girlfriend went ahead and they one-upped themselves this year. I got another package yesterday, Hunter.
Oh.
You know who my favorite player is, right, on the Marquette team?
I honestly don't remember. I feel like you've told me.
I have. I say it quite often. I'm a huge Chase Ross guy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I'm an idiot.
So moments after this Chase Ross last night against DePaul hits this three, my girlfriend goes, "Oh, bleep," and runs away. She runs out of the apartment. It's like, okay, what's happening right now? About 3 minutes later, she comes back into the apartment with a package, and my buddy Max is on FaceTime. And they go, "Open the package." So I open the package. And another NIL deal, Hunter. Chase Ross made money on this purchase, but it's an all-timer. I now own a Chase Ross jersey.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the best. And you have plenty of time to wear it.
So, gotta put it on. Chase Ross jersey. The best jersey, by the way. The best jersey color for Marquette. So, Tyler Kolek t-shirt has evolved into a Chase Ross jersey, which is terrific. So, as a guy that was not raised a Marquette fan, right? My mom's a Wisconsin alum. Obviously, Wisconsin, when I was growing up, was very good. And then when I got into middle school and high school, they were making Final Four runs. And Marquette was kind of just rebuilding, right? So like Wojo and Buzz, and then now into Shaka. But Marquette very good now. And I live in Milwaukee. I'm a huge college hoops fan. I root for both. I always have. We remember the t-shirt I wore in December that was rather, I don't want to say controversial, but it was not well received. I root for both, and I love Chase Ross's game. The dude is not like entirely in the way in which he plays, but he reminds me a little bit of Russell Westbrook, who is like my favorite NBA player ever, in terms of he's just going 110 miles an hour always, and I love that. But huge shot for Chase Ross last night, a nice win. There's no such thing as an ugly win in college basketball. It is a win and move on situation for Marquette last night at DePaul. Same thing for the Badgers at home against Ohio State. Watch both of those games. Wisconsin, bad second half, but still finding a way to escape against the bad Ohio State team at home. Both teams in the top 25. Both teams looking to make some runs in March. But now I have my very own, my first ever Marquette jersey.
It looks good on you. I'm really happy for you. Now, I feel as though that since you have a Marquette jersey, like you're just a Marquette fan. Like you can come over to this side.
I'm both. I'm 50-50.
You're on the Marquette side now.
I probably should have worn my split t-shirt today, coming off of a win for both teams. My half Wisconsin, half Marquette t-shirt, but I'll just rock the Chase Ross jersey because that guy's awesome. So, Hunter, a guy we need to get on the show in the next month or so, next couple weeks, Chase Ross.
Yes.
Adam today, he has to come on the show list because we need to talk about this NIL jersey that I think he technically made money from because I think it says like NIL shop or something, athletic apparel.
Yeah, the university does a NIL shop. I've bought some things from it before. Love that schools are doing that. Wish schools would even lean further into that. But yeah, you gave Chase Ross some money, so I feel like he kind of owes you now. Like he needs to come on the show.
We will work on that here in the month of January. But much more important things to talk about than my Chase Ross jersey and Chase Ross's shot last night against DePaul. As the Green Bay Packers season is over and done with, we have kind of lived with the death of the 2024 Packers now for a couple of days. It's still sad. It's still irritating. It's still upsetting, especially the performance we saw the last couple of weeks from Green Bay, a team that we expected could win a playoff game, knew they would have to do it on the road, but thought they could win a playoff game. And down the stretch of the final few weeks of the regular season, they didn't help themselves, right? They couldn't beat the Vikings on the road. They couldn't beat the Bears at home. And found themselves in the same spot they were a year ago in the 7th seed, which means you go to a really good football team, and they did in Philadelphia. And their defense kept them in the game. The offense just couldn't muster the points, the yards, or any of the production they needed to win that football game. Jordan Love throws 3 interceptions and no touchdowns. It's not going to win you playoff games. And now you are left with, oof, that was a really poor way to end the season. It was. I mean, it was about as bad as it possibly could have been because in week 16, you absolutely smoke the New Orleans Saints at Lambeau Field to secure your playoff spot. And at that point, the Packers were the 6th seed in the NFC. And had they just won one of their final 2 games, they would have been the 6th seed and gone to, it would have been L.A. And obviously the Rams beat up on the Vikings pretty good. The way that game turned out, but just hurts a little bit. So we will see as we roll on. Actually, it would have been Tampa Bay, excuse me. And the Commanders got the 6th seed, and they beat up. Oh, they didn't beat them up, but got the lucky doink on Sunday night and found a way to advance. So you see the 6th seed win on the road and get the opportunity at Detroit, and it just makes you go, could bet us. But this team wasn't playing good enough football to convince me they would have gone to Tampa and won. And I think Tampa probably wins that game given what we saw on Sunday. So for me, it is now this for the Green Bay Packers in the upcoming offseason. The Packers need to admit their shortcomings and their wrongdoings this offseason as they approach the draft and they approach free agency and negotiations, restructures with some of their vets. They need to understand what they've done wrong when it comes to building this team. I'm not saying the youth movement is a failure. I'm just saying the youngest team in the league's never won a Super Bowl. I'm not saying go sign a bunch of 35-year-old skill position players, but go get somebody in their 30s at wide receiver. Go get a proven cornerback. Go get a proven defensive lineman for some depth. And maybe you go ahead and advance your opportunity and advance your chances to bring it to that next level here in 25. Brian Gutekunst has done a really nice job at many things during his tenure as the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. He made the bold decision to draft Jordan Love, which seemingly has worked out, despite what happened on Sunday for Love. This past offseason, signing Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs, those were the 2 best players to wear the G this season. Great signings. But now that you are free of the cap hell that Aaron Rodgers left you in, and you finally have some money to play with this upcoming offseason, you need to go take some more swings. It's fine making the postseason. It's fine, maybe winning a playoff game every couple of years. But the expectation is championships. And Brian Gutekunst and company need to go back to the well this offseason and make some moves. Whether that's T. Higgins, I know is the name that's been thrown around 100 times. Whether that's Devontae Adams on offense. Or if that's DJ Reed at cornerback. You need to go make a big swing at some of those positions that will bring you to the next level. The receiving core just didn't take the step we expected them to. And now, obviously, that's going to linger into next season with Christian Watson's ACL injury. How much better does your depth chart look if all of a sudden Jaden Reed is your second best receiver, and when Christian Watson returns, he's your number 3 receiver? Romeo Doubs is your 4th, and Dontavian Wicks is your 5th. Looks a little bit better. Gives you a little bit more confidence that you have dudes in that room. If you have a Devontae Adams making his return, leading the charge offensively, and being your number 1 receiver, I think defenses are a little bit more worried about what you can do outside. I saw the quote on either Monday or Tuesday earlier this week. Keyshawn Nixon saying he doesn't want to return kicks anymore because he wants to be CB1. And granted, he played a little bit of CB1 when Jair Alexander left with his injury, and ultimately his season ended following that surgery. Keyshawn Nixon was thrown into that role. You would prefer he's not playing that role. If you go draft a corner in round 1 and he pans out, which I know a lot of Goody's first-round picks haven't, and you sign a veteran cornerback, you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with that position of Keyshawn Nixon as CB3 rather than CB1. So while Goody and company have done a nice job constructing this roster with young guns who are outperforming probably the timeline that they expected when they built this roster, it's time to take some big swings. Year 3, quote-unquote, of this quote-unquote rebuild is Super Bowl expectations. You went from 9 wins to 11 wins. It's time to gear up for championships. Right? This offseason is huge for Brian Gutekunst. Matt LaFleur, yes, he had his shortcomings too. When it came to some of the play calling, some of the time management, some of the challenges, etc., he had his shortcomings, but he's a good head coach. It's time to give this good head coach the right pieces for the recipe so he can make a 5-star meal. This team's good enough. They have the pieces. And as they continue to develop, right? Think about the Tucker Crafts, the Jaden Reeds, the Carrington Valentines, the Rasheed Walkers of the world. Some of these second, third-year guys that are ready to take that next step, and we expect them to. Doesn't mean they will, but we expect them to take that next step next year. Put the right pieces around them. You likely have to find a center, whether that's through the draft, whether that's already on your roster. You got to add a wide receiver, you got to add a corner, and you could use some defensive line depth. You're in a good spot at tight end. You're in a good spot at running back. Quarterback, obviously, you're in a good spot. But you need to admit your wrongdoings. You need to admit your shortcomings, face the music, and address them this offseason. And go into July's training camp date with the expectation of it is time to win a freaking Super Bowl. No more 7 seed, no more wild card exits, no more divisional round bounce outs. It's time to get to the NFC Championship and win it. And this offseason is a huge one for Brian Gutekunst. Those are some of the spots I'd like to see them address. Those are some of the things I'd like to see them upgrade. Not to say those are the only things they need to upgrade or could address, whether that be through the draft or elsewhere. But that's the way I view it right now, as it stands a couple days removed from the wild card loss. Hunter, go ahead.
What if, let's hypothetically say this offseason, the Packers, their biggest kind of starter move that they make in free agency is getting a guy like Odigizua, the D tackle from the Cowboys, who's going to be a free agent. He's an interior pass rusher. But then the rest of those position groups that you mentioned, they really just get like, they're veterans, but they're still kind of younger guys, and they're more just depth stuff. Like they added some extra depth at O-line. They don't really get a top-end receiver. Are you feeling okay because they at least got a starter in one position, or is this they have to get multiple starters this offseason?
No, I think depth is actually receiver I struggle with, because I would like them to go get a top-end guy. And look, T. Higgins is going to cost a lot of money. And I brought this up yesterday on KBN. The last 2 years, Packers fans have criticized Christian Watson because he's been injury-prone and has missed a lot of time. The last 2 seasons, 23 and 24 combined, T. Higgins and Christian Watson played the same amount of games. Now, very important detail. T. Higgins had many more receptions. I think it was about 500 more yards and 8 more touchdowns than Christian Watson did. So he's much more efficient, and he's a better wide receiver than Christian Watson. But are you willing to pay top dollar for that guy when you still have some of those really good pieces, right? Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson are all good pieces. But are you willing to pay top dollar, or is it I don't even know a name off the top of my head to bring up, but somebody that's kind of, maybe not a clear-cut number one receiver, but can just add to that depth. At least you take the shot on it, right? Corner, I think, is the more important position to me, that you want that top guy. But I see George chimes in on the YouTube chat and says, I'd rather fix the pass rush than the cornerback room. An effective pass rush can make any decent corner look great, which I agree with. But when it comes to facing Justin Jefferson twice a year, when it comes to facing Amon-Ra St. Brown twice a year, when it comes to facing DJ Moore or Roma Dunze twice a year, I'd like a lockdown guy, right? Jair was that. I just don't anticipate he'll be on the roster next year or be a viable option next year. So I'd like to find somebody, maybe not to the level of Jair, but close to the level of Jair, that can play that corner position really well. That's where my concern goes, and that's where my head goes. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with it as long as they're taking swings, I guess, Hunter. I don't want them to sit still like they've done so many times in the past, especially in free agency, and just say, yeah, we're good. Because we saw they're not good enough, right? As the roster stands today, it is not good enough to win a Super Bowl. They're close. They're definitely playoff good, but they are not close enough to win a championship. And next year I view as the year to take a swing. And maybe that gives you a window, right? Maybe that gives you a 3-year or 4-year window where you actually have a good enough team to shoot for some Super Bowls. But next year is certainly the beginning of the window where that has to be the expectation, or it is an utter failure. I know you've got a list of receivers in front of you, Hunter. I'm fine running through some names. I know T. Higgins is the big one. I know Devontae Adams has been making his media rounds.
Yeah.
With Kay Adams talking about Green Bay and maybe a reunion. But what are some other names that could potentially be on the Packers' radar at that wide receiver position?
This is just a list from potential free agents for Spotrac. So none of these guys are 100% official yet. But Stephon Diggs, you okay with that one?
Nope. I'm good. I'm good with that one. I don't think you need a personality like Stephon Diggs coming into this young locker room. He's been problematic everywhere he's been. Good receiver, and one of the terms we use in sports to define, those type of individuals are they're an MFer, right? Like I always called DJ Burns, the former North Carolina State center who went on that run, I called him the big MFer. Like you need some MFers, and Stephon Diggs, without a doubt, is an MFer. But I worry about some of the juju he'd bring into the locker room. So I would be anti Stephon Diggs.
I'm assuming the 32-year-old Keenan Allen is a no.
Actually, no. That's what I'd be open to on a short-term deal. He is injury prone. I get that. But he still has some ball left in him. So if it's a 1-year deal, Hunter, or a 2-year deal, I'm certainly open to the idea of Keenan Allen.
Amari Cooper?
Yeah, I'm open to it. It's his track record's a little problematic. Obviously, he didn't provide or hasn't provided as much as we thought in Buffalo. That sounds more like a who was the receiver? Devin Funchess. That seems like and obviously that one didn't work out because of COVID. That seems more like a Devin Funchess swing than it is a true number one receiver swing. But again, I'm open to depth in that room. I would still like a true number one. And I imagine with pick 20, what did they end up with? Pick 24 in the NFL draft, pick 23 in the NFL draft. They're probably not taking a swing on a receiver there. So we'll see.
Yeah, there'd have to be somebody that has some weird flaw that they either fall or something no one else does at that spot. With the way that the receivers are in this draft, the rest of these names, I feel like most of them are kind of yes. Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, like they kind of fit what you feel like you're looking for from the Packers. Like they'd be kind of outside guys that would, I think, really help. But some of these other ones, like, are you going Marquise Brown or like Darius Slayton, KJ Osborne?
Obviously those are not number ones, but I like Slayton actually. And given the track record Joe Shane has of letting free agents walk out the door, they turn out pretty good. I get he's not Xavier McKinney or Saquon Barkley, but maybe he has a great second act somewhere.
You like
Joshy
receivers, I can tell here from what you're talking about.
So what I guess you haven't chimed in on this yet. When it comes to that position specifically, and we'll get to corner in a moment. When it comes to receiver, Is it T. Higgins or bust in your mind?
I think Devontae's a fair play.
Now, what do we expect the route to get Devontae to be? Would it be a trade?
It could be, but the trade value would be low because to cut him, they save $30 million.
Oh, okay. So he'll likely be a free agent.
Right. So you could say, hey, want to trade for Devontae Adams, and we'll go, sure, but here's a 6th-round pick or a 5th-round pick because cutting him is just as easy for you. Like you're only carrying $8 million of dead money. T. Higgins would be great. I don't see it happening.
I don't either.
He's looking like 30 million plus probably when the market comes to due. I have no interest in Keenan Allen. Thank you. No, thank you.
No interest at all.
Too injured, not good enough, needs to function out of the slot. Like we're looking for outside help here.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like good enough. A name mentioned that was kind of interesting. I don't really think he's a wide receiver 1. But if you squint, he has been, and that's Jacoby Myers possibly being available from the Raiders.
If you squint, he has been. That's a good line.
He gets a lot of targets. He's not really like a go out and score touchdowns guy, but he can catch the ball and provide like useful. He would be the perfect, like he's what we wanted Romeo Doubs to be.
Correct.
A guy you look to on 3rd down. He's not going to do anything crazy, but he's going to catch the ball, move the chains, keep you moving.
Well, I almost feel like the Packers are looking for more of a stopgap than it is a long-term fix as number 1, right? So a Myers could make sense there. A Devontae would make sense there. A T. Higgins would be more of a long-term solution, which, of course, we're all open to, but the money's crazy, right? I mean, he's going to make a lot of money in free agency, and I just don't know if I'm willing to pay that much. So I'm with you. Keenan, I'm open to. I'm surprised you're not. And you're right. He's too injured. He's more of a slot guy that takes away from Jaden Reed. But
I mean, he like showed up.
Just get ball players on the field, I guess is where my head's at.
In not great shape. He was talking about looking other places to go. Like
he was talking about vacation in week 13. Yeah.
It just seems like a guy. I don't know if that's really what you're looking for. And I think adding injuries into the mess they've had there with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs now, like the concussion thing is catching up. How's that going to go? It's interesting. I honestly think Romeo Doubs might find his way out of Green Bay via trade if they do decide to acquire someone or go out and sign someone. It's just at what point do his behavior plus his letdown of a season plus like the injury proneness, when do you just kind of rip the band? Because you still want Dontavian Wicks to grow. That's definitely a part that they want to keep going. Who knows when Christian Watson comes back? You have a piece there, Jaden Reed. You want to find better ways to use him and keep him more involved.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they want to sink a spot where Dontavian Wicks is wide receiver 5, and they don't really have a spot for him.
You're right. The thing I'm worried about, and obviously we're not going to know this answer for a long time, is the timeline on Watson. Right? Yes. Is he out until December? Because then all of a sudden Wicks is your wide receiver 4, and that's what he's been all year, right? So I don't know. Or is he just out until October, right? Like I really don't know the timeline on Watson. We won't for a while. We won't until probably training camp at the earliest? I
have a hard time seeing the Packers line up with Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, and Dontavian Wicks.
Week 1?
Yeah, and being like, this is all we've got here, especially with what we saw happen with Doubs.
Okay, so I want to go back to something I said at the top, because I think this is the impetus of the conversation we're having. Brian Gutekunst needs to admit his shortcomings and his wrongdoings, right? Like he needs to look at this roster and realize it is not enough to win a Super Bowl, so some swings need to be taken in the offseason. The issue I'm having with saying that out loud is Brian Gutekunst willing to, without verbally saying it, but by some of his actions this offseason, is he willing, Joshy, to admit the shortcomings and the wrongdoings? Because recent memory shows, usually not.
I mean, I guess what does that mean to me? Because I think
it means overcorrecting. You need to overcorrect at some of these positions.
Yeah,
right?
I think Edge might be the first round pick, which would be a lot of value put up in that front. But Lucas Van Ness being a non-factor, Rashawn Gary being a disappointment, and then you got other guys that are good depth. You feel fine with them as
like Enigbare is great, right?
Right. And even Brenton Cox Jr. was
Yeah, good
pretty
point.
damn good
Yeah,
at
he was.
that position. But those are depth guys, and you just need someone to get better. Maybe you find a spot for Van Ness and say, hey, you slide down. Now you're our 5 technique, and you're going to be mixing in with Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, and all those guys. Maybe that's the path. Maybe you move on from one of those guys if you can, like Van Ness or like I think Wyatt's a part of the future. It's just that defensive line. Matt LaFleur said it plainly, like. You guys need to win your one-on-ones, and we weren't doing it. He said it just yesterday, where they were
bleep.
They were reticent to kind of be critical of that front, and they're saying, "Oh, they're getting chipped, all that." But yeah, your guys aren't winning one-on-ones, so it doesn't really matter if they're sending chips or not because you could just. I mean, we saw a tight end block Lucas Van Ness.
Sure did.
It's just that position needs to be better, and I don't think he's just going to go one more year for these guys. Because Van Ness played a lot of snaps and did close to nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was not great in year 2. And do you have a ton of confidence that year 3 is going to look way different than year 2? No, right?
No.
Like, and going to what you think will happen in the draft, I think we can agree. I do not anticipate a wide receiver round 1.
No.
Maybe round 2, maybe round 3. And granted, Goody's been good in those rounds when it comes to the skill position players. But as I've said a few times today, the championship window needs to be viewed as open right now. Right? Next year needs to be viewed as we need to get to the Super Bowl year, not just let's try to get to the divisional round. Let's improve off last year. Like that's not how you can view it next year. This is a team that needs to be Super Bowl good next year. And I don't think, trying to solve the main problems we have, which I think have come up, the 3 main ones are edge, corner, and wide receiver. You're not solving that in the draft. There needs to be some free agency investment at least one, if not multiple, of those positions.
Yeah, I expect them to be active. Obviously, they've got some stuff to do with guys they want to bring back, like Zach Tom. You're going to want to figure out here in the future. There is places where you can look and go, maybe that guy gets an extension, but it's going to be largely how do we supplement what we have, add depth, and then, can we add to – now, Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs – are going to be what everyone's looking for, but those guys don't come around every year.
No, they do not.
Bad teams are the teams that try and find those guys every single year. You kind of pick and choose your spots, which Goody's been good at. Not really big free agency team, a lot more than Ted Thompson with Goody there, but
yes.
the investments he's made have been smash hits. And I trust him to go out there and not be desperate. Not just spend a bunch of money because you got it or you can figure out a way to use it. Use it smartly. Find guys that at best days are still ahead of them and build the core and help them grow together.
So Brian Gutekunst's the big smash hits Joshy refers to. Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith, even Adrian Amos to a point in that 2019 class. And Billy Turner, actually, was also he started several games for them that year. Outside of that, and then obviously Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, who am I missing? Some of the low-risk, high-reward plays like Rasul Douglas.
I mean, Devondre Campbell at one point.
Devondre Campbell, right? The bad move there was the second contract.
Right.
But the first contract was very good.
But, I mean, that's multiple All-Pros right there, and then multiple Pro Bowls for some of those guys. So, like, there was – to find All-Pros in free agency and just for a team that traditionally doesn't do it, to me, is, like, miraculous. There's 3 All-Pros I can count amongst those guys. Did Zadarius get one, or was he just a Pro Bowler?
I don't know off the top of my head.
He had like a 16 sacks.
He had to be right up there if he wasn't. This is a comment that we can address quick, Joshy. All you, baby. Ready?
Uh-huh.
From Abdo on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. Find a way to get both Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. Get rid of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Keep Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks with Adams and Hill.
I'm good on Tyreek Hill.
Are you?
Yeah, I mean...
He's not going anywhere. He's going to stay in Miami.
He's also a walking behavioral issue.
Correct.
Save for the time he seemed like he was improperly arrested. He's done enough through his history. He's made enough comments. He's caused enough stirs that doesn't see...
It's not a Packers
If
guy.
you want Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed to grow, I don't think Tyreek Hill's part of it. Devontae Adams, I'll stump for Devontae Adams. He's traditionally not a guy I would even want.
Sure.
But there's obviously a history, and
well, let me ask you this:
he was like one of the better receivers on a per game basis.
Yes. He was still good in New York.
And his quarterbacks, including Aaron Rodgers, were bad.
Yes, he was still pretty good and productive in New York since he got there in October.
I need a good year or two out of you.
Yes, it's a
2 would be
stopgap.
a bonus. I want 1.
Yeah, definitely one. Definitely one. If I gave you the option, throw everything else aside. I'm telling you, you can either have one or one or the other. Is it Devontae Adams or is it T. Higgins?
It's T. Higgins.
Okay.
The youth to me and long term, like if you can have him for the next 5-6 years, I think that would be more valuable than the rental, which would be great. I don't want to say like Devontae Adams said, but Devontae Adams is going to be 33 next year.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, that's
It's getting up there.
we're getting close.
Yeah. I mean, the Packers moved on from Jordy when he turned 32.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of how Goody operates in that room. Hunter, go ahead.
2 things to just kind of one to clean up, and then I have a question for the two of you because I'm all in on NFL draft stuff. First,
Here we go.
Sedarius Smith, second team All-Pro in 2020. Which was with the Packers then, of course. And then the second one, the latest receiver I've been seeing in mock drafts is Emeka Ogbuka, the wide receiver from Ohio State. But he'd be somewhere about 17 to 20 in the draft. Are you okay with the Packers moving up a few spots if they really like him to go and get him?
Yeah, I'm up for movement. And look, I am not a draft hardo as much as the two of you are. I like the draft. I'll start my research here pretty soon. I'll start playing around with total side note. I've seen a bunch of film recently. Josh, you'll know his name. I just know you've watched him. Texas wide receiver that's been all over my feed the last 24 hours.
Holden?
Yes.
Yes.
Seems like Packers fans are falling in love with him.
Yeah, I mean, they do that.
Yep. Yep.
He's a declare, and for whatever reason, here's the thing. I don't think Emeka Ogbuka is the type of guy for the Packers to go up and get. He's 22 years old, which is pretty old for college football players.
It's crazy.
They
22 is old.
They like young. They like 19, 20.
They do.
Guys that are like on the rise.
Lucas Van Ness.
Yes. But if they did it, I would be all for it because that means they have some conviction and they're willing to give up assets to go get it. Like, I would have no choice but to trust him in that. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah, it would have to be one of those guys who people are largely thinking is like a top 10 to 12 pick that slides, I think, before the Packers even entered into considering it, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm really intrigued to see how they handle this draft. So not only is it Goody in the draft, and it's always a wild card, right? He can move back, he can move forward, he can not move, he could draft somebody that nobody's been scouting, a la Jacob Morgan.
Jordan.
Did I do it again?
Yep.
Wait, is this a thing that Strouf's been doing?
Yeah, I went to college with a dude named Jacob Morgan, who played on the Stevens Point football team. He was a defensive back, and I always call Jordan Morgan Jacob Morgan.
But they don't even play the same position, Strouf.
It's just a name thing, right? Like if the Packers drafted somebody called Drew DiMaggio, I'd call him Josh. It's just how it would happen. It's just how my brain is wired.
You're too young to be doing what my dad does and just kind of fit in whatever name pops into his head. It's always half right.
Yeah, but we've talked about my memory. I do have short-term memory loss. Not diagnosed, just self-diagnosed. And you think by this, like it's almost like I'm doing a bit. It's actually infuriating. I get it wrong every time. So it's Jordan Morgan, right?
Yep.
Out of Arizona.
I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. It was supposed to be a tackle, was playing guard, and then he got injured. I know exactly what we're talking about, but ridiculous. But anyway, Goody in the draft. Do you think this is a serious question I have, and I hope somebody asks him this at some point. Do you think he will feel added pressure because the draft is on his home turf?
No. How is the politically correct way to say this?
Oh, boy.
Oh, just say it.
If you have to preface a sentence with that, I'm really nervous about what's coming next.
He strikes me as somebody so laser focused on the main thing, that being the draft, that all the outside noise wouldn't even matter. It has a way of, I mean, Aaron Rodgers talked about it. Like to him, football players are like just chess pieces on a chessboard. There is no emotional aspect to him. He hasn't shown
fair.
any sort of
Good-
emotion.
Good point.
And I hope people understand what I'm trying to get at there. It's like he's a football dork. He is purely football at all times. Just that's all he cares about. He'll probably be annoyed that it takes longer to get to work because they typically are like at the like they'll have to be in. I wonder if they're going to be like staying there. That's an interesting question because I
don't know any. I was talking to. I'll leave you a 50-50 shot. One of our reporters based in Green Bay earlier this week. Okay, one of the people we talk to often.
at least two.
Yeah, I'll give you a 50-50 shot, but I'm going to leave it unnamed. And I said, "Are you looking?" Because my plan for the draft is this, and we'll hash it out, and we'll actually figure out what I'm doing from a work standpoint. But I plan on being in Green Bay from Monday to Monday. I want to be up there all week, right? It's my hometown. My brother lives in Green Bay. I'm going to stay with him. I want to see what this looks like. And talking to this person off the record, he said, it's going to be a cluster bleed.
Yeah.
And this person was not really looking forward to it. Because, think about it, right? Detroit pulled, what was it, like 100,000 people last year?
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay is going to pull more than that. It's Green Bay. It's the mecca of football. They're shutting down Oneida Street, which is a major street in the city of Ashwaubenon, right by Lambeau Field. It is going to be messy. Obviously, we know Green Bay's reputation for drunkenness.
Yes.
So it is going to, it's going to be a freaking party, don't get me wrong. But it's going to be messy. So from the logistics standpoint, Goody might be sleeping in his office all weekend. It's like they have showers in Lambeau. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. You think I could just set up a tent? We have the Tundra Trio houses where I do Green Bay game day
Right.
from. You think I could just set up a tent in the backyard?
You could just open the door to the buildings.
Yeah, but I imagine people are staying there.
Yeah, I would imagine. Here's another thing that you probably will be shocked by. The people who get paid more than us probably will have better accommodations.
Oh, really? You think so?
No.
I'm just stabbing.
That is just a random guess. Wild estimation. Really? You think so?
Yeah, I certainly
They'll be
think.
cotton it in the living room.
Yeah, how many beds? It's been a while since I've been there.
I was there 2 weeks ago. I think there is, in one house, I think there's like 8 beds because there's the bunk beds.
Yep.
And in the other house, there's just
there
there's
3?
just 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So 11 total?
It's a lot of beds.
I don't think I'm getting one of the 11. That's my tent question.
I'll take bottom bunk, you take top.
Let's swap that. I want Joshy on the top bunk.
I don't
want
know if you want that. When was the last time the structural integrity of those bunks are checked? That seems risky. I can't look your wonderful girlfriend in the face and say, yeah, I killed them. The bunk bed gave way.
Oh my God.
No one needs that.
No one needs that. I think we should test it out.
If you think I'm getting on top bunk, you got another thing coming. Hey, when you were young,
My brother had the bottom bunk.
yeah,
My older brother had the bottom bunk.
yeah, that's.
Now, I did this thing. Speaking of bunk beds, you're gonna think I'm disgusting. I got to tell this though.
Oh, no.
So
boy.
me and my brother shared bunk beds until he was at my dad's place. Divorced parents, 2 households. At my dad's place, we shared a bunk bed until he graduated high school.
Wow.
So he was a senior when I was in 8th grade. Right? Is that the right math? Yes. So I was in 8th grade when he was a senior in high school. And I would do this thing where I would drool
Oh boy.
down a pole and it would land right on his face.
Wow.
Little brother stuff. And then he would
Wait,
do
you would do it on purpose?
Yes.
Oh, I thought.
I'd spit on him from
Yeah,
the top
that's-
bunk. And then he would do this thing where he'd take his feet
Yeah, kick it,
and he'd kick the mattress.
and then you'd hit the
And
ceiling.
I would hit the ceiling.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And my dad would yell, "The hell's going on?"
I remember being as a kid excited to be on the top bunk, and then you do the one thing where you roll and you're kind of facing the wrong direction, and you wake up just horrified because it's like you're falling. To have a falling dream from a top bunk, not for me. I like being close to the ground.
I had a falling dream last night.
I don't want to talk about your dreams.
You sure?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's probably a good choice for
Yeah.
everybody involved. All right. Good stuff. All right. So Devontae Adams we're in on.
I think it
I think I'm in on it.
it makes it fits too well.
That's why it's not going to happen.
Right.
Same with T. Higgins. Dude, you know what they're going to do? I mentioned the name Devin Funchess earlier. They're going to sign Deontay Johnson, who just got waived again yesterday.
I mean, he got cut 3 times.
I know. I know. I mean,
Trust me, I can fix him.
Yeah, right. But isn't that kind of what happened with Brandon Cooks too, or was he never cut? He just played for a million
he
teams.
He just got traded a lot.
Because he was a Texan, he was a Cowboy, he was a Ram, he was a Chief.
Yeah.
Where is he now?
He's
Cowboys.
He'll
be a free agent,
he's still
though.
a Cowboy. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Brandon Cooks was like the tradable piece for the longest time, which I think is like pretty good.
That's not a bad place
Yeah.
to live, I don't think. I mean, it sucks for you
Yes.
because literally the living part of that, you got to move a lot. But yeah, I think that's a good thing. It means you're an asset. It means you're worth something, right? I mean, there's worse places to live, I guess. All right. Okay, off of that now. Let's go to one word. Each and every Wednesday, Hunter provides me topics or prompts. I respond with one word. We call it One Word Wednesday. He did not send me the topics today, so we are freeballing it, baby. We're gonna see what he came up with. We're gonna see what I have to say. It is time now to play one word on Mr. Irrelevant.
All right, Justin Herbert threw 4 interceptions in the wild card loss.
Yeah. Choker. 0-2 in playoff games.
The end of the Commanders Tampa Bay game went fumble, touchdown, field goal, doink, field goal.
Chaos. Now, I said that was my favorite game of Wild Card Weekend ahead of time. I thought we were going to see more points than we did. It was still the best game. Eagles-Packers probably second. It was the best game. It was competitive. It was back and forth. It was a little sloppy, but it was a good game. So, yeah, chaotic would be my word.
You and Joshy said that LA wouldn't win. I did.
Idiots.
The Lions are 9.5-point
That
favorites
counts,
on the Commanders.
By the way, that counts you as well. You're also an idiot, despite being right.
Okay.
Yeah, right would be the word there. 9.5 points seems right. Look, I like the Commanders. They're a good story. First playoff win in, 20 years? Dan Quinn's got them humming. Cliff Kingsbury's going to talk himself back into a head coaching candidate. If that's not this year, it'll be next year. But the Lions are that good. 9.5 seems right.
I think that I wouldn't want to be playing them with what I have on defense right now if I was the Lions. Like, I would legit feel better with the Rams or the Eagles because of the defense. Like, that to me, if Jane Daniels does Jane Daniels stuff and you got no answer, that could be like, they're going to score points, the Lions, that is. But the Commanders are going to too. And you just got to hope you can get Jaden into some mistakes.
I'm glad it was brought up real quick. The betting line for this game tonight on ESPN Milwaukee from 6 to 7 p.m. Me and Joshy get to bully Ben Brust. It is the weekly wager live from Potawatomi Sportsbook. Myself, Joshy DiMaggio, and Ben Brust with you for an hour talking all things sports betting, including we will talk plenty about Wild Card Weekend and the lines there. We will talk about the national championship game coming up on Monday. But me and Joshy, who have both now served as a producer for Ben Brust's afternoon show on ESPN Wisconsin, get to bully him tonight. So looking forward to that from 6 to 7 on ESPN Milwaukee. Anyway, Hunter, continue.
I'm changing up my next one. I want a percentage from each of you that Ben Brust cries.
37.
I'm going to put it at 5%. I don't think either of us can get under his skin enough. We can rattle him. We could shake him.
Oh, yeah. He'll be shaken. I was just...
Yeah.
But I also confirmed, Joshy, now this is very technical and this is going to be saved for off the air, but I don't do it that way. I have confirmed he is leading the show, so he'll be our lead host tonight. We just got to mess with him.
Yeah.
Just anytime he mispronounces the word, we're getting his head. We'll rattle him a little bit.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, college football national championship game on Monday.
Not from a rooting perspective, but from a hold on. From a rooting perspective, the word is hell. These are probably the two college football teams I hate the most. Ohio State, Notre Dame. So not fun in terms of a rooting interest. But when it comes to the game, the word is an acronym. It is OH. I imagine the Buckeyes will roll.
Yeah, they're 8-point favorites.
Hold on a minute. What?
Talking about defining words. That's not
It's not an acronym.
Not
It's
even close to
not
it.
an acronym.
I was just going to move on.
I mean, it is half of the state name.
It is the abbreviation.
Yes. Okay. There we go. But I was thinking more of the chant, which is O-H.
Oh, I knew what you were doing. You just didn't do it right.
I botched it per
Yeah,
usual in this game. Yes. OH.
No Milwaukee Brewers on Sunday Night Baseball for their schedule as that was released earlier today.
My word is baseball? Gotta be honest, didn't see that one coming at all. Can they flex those? How does that work?
I don't know. I'm just the fact that they're back-to-back division champs and opening the season. Nope, don't want to announce that they get a game on Sunday Night Baseball.
They'll survive and they'll win the division again. It'll be all right. Life will go on. I'll see you at the ballpark. I don't have a word for this one, to be honest with you.
Marquette wins at DePaul in overtime last night.
Scary. Certainly thought that was going to be a loss, and then this guy right here makes a very clutch shot towards the end of regulation, and then when that game went to overtime, it was over. If Marquette was able to get it to overtime, they were going to win. And they had a shot, obviously, at the end of regulation. Cam Jones' long three rattles in and out. Thought that was going to fall. I popped out of my chair. I thought it was in. But, yeah, I mean, I refuse to call anything an ugly win in college basketball because basketball is so different than football, right? In the NFL, I've said the Packers have won ugly before. You can have ugly wins in the NFL. I don't believe that's the case in college basketball. So scary will be my word, but it wasn't an ugly win. It was a road game, a place where, despite how bad DePaul always is, you have a tough time playing. But they found a way to survive and get another win.
Sticking with college basketball, number 9 Kansas at number 2 Iowa State tonight.
Yeah, this is fun. All my band words pop to mind here, right? Frisky, sexy, intriguing, interesting. GOTP. It's an acronym. Game of the Year potential. Josh, you remember GOTA?
Somebody that I used to know.
Yeah.
That song's back, you know.
Is it?
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean it's back?
The EDM, it has been mixed into an EDM version, and the Zoomers love it.
The Zoomers.
Gen Z.
Is that me? Am I a Zoomer?
Yes, you are.
You're a millennial?
Yes.
Yep.
You proud to be a millennial?
No.
Hunter, you proud to be a millennial?
I don't really care. I just like making fun of boomers.
What about Zoomers?
I didn't even know that was a thing until just now. So
I didn't either. Glad we're on the same page.
one last one here. Did you guys know that they make comforters that are larger than king size? Found that out, and it's been life-changing.
Did I know that? Yes, I did.
I also knew this.
Oversized.
Yeah.
Big.
Yeah. My wife and I were arguing over the sheets because we kept stealing them from each other. So we went with an oversized king sheet. Oh,
Nice.
It's been great.
You said life-changing. Is that serious?
Yeah, because now, like, I'll roll over and, like, take some of the sheet, and it doesn't pull on her end because we have so much more. It's like an extra 16 inches of comforter. It's been great.
Hell yeah, brother. Nothing like a good night's sleep.
Yeah, it's been awesome. 2 best nights of sleep I've had in months.
I'm so anti top sheet. Get that out of my life.
Oh, yeah, we just
you
do the
mean-
comforter.
So you mean
Okay.
stretchy sheet that nobody knows how to fold, right? That's the base layer.
Yeah.
And then you just want comforter?
Yes.
Any blankets or anything in between?
I mean, you can.
Okay, so
That's fine.
we do a heated blanket and then the comforter.
You guys sleep with a heated blanket.
Oh, that's disgusting.
You got to be sweating in there.
We
Getting swamp ass going to bed.
turn it on low, get the fans going. It's perfect.
Oh. The thought of a heated blanket in bed. I mean, I wake up boiling just randomly.
James on the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat says, Strouf is an idiot.
Whoa.
Northern Illinois was 22-point underdog and still somehow lucked out against Notre Dame. James, I would just like to know, are you a Northern Illinois alum? That seems like a Northern Illinois alum take. Ohio State is better than Notre Dame. Now, will that necessarily show next Monday? No. I mean, right? You play the game for a reason. But I just feel like nobody in the country is better than Ohio State, and it's felt that way since the first round of the college football playoff. The way they won the first round game makes you go, whoa. And then they beat Oregon, and you go, whoa. And here they are in the national championship.
The most interesting thing that happens is Ohio State wins. They lose to Michigan. And
they don't actually appreciate the national championship.
Right, and then you just Ryan Day you can't get rid of Ryan Day.
No. Well, they're not going to now that he's in the national championship.
Right.
Yeah, what is it? 3 in a row or 4? It's 4 in a row now, right? That they've lost to Michigan?
Yeah, because I believe Sawyer has never beat them.
Yes.
Yep.
By the way, speaking of Jack Sawyer, my first draft crush.
Oh, because you saw the one play against Texas, and now that's all you know about him. He's really good. He'll be a first rounder, but
you gotta be careful of those try-hard whites. That's how you end up with Lucas Van Ness.
That's a good pop. Hunter liked that one, Joshy. You got him to cry.
I mean, it's the best way to describe the man.
Try hard whites. Hey, AJ Hawk was pretty good.
Yeah,
the last Ohio State first round pick for the Packers.
He ended up being a letdown.
Gotta watch out for those try hard whites.
Prove me wrong.
Oh, man. You learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. If Hunter's done laughing, we start in the Everlight Solar Studio with Hunter Vaughn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to go something a little more positive, but I learned that the Cowboys have no – let me back up. Jerry Jones has no idea what he's doing. That idiot decided, no, you know what? Instead of getting rid of Mike McCarthy right away and actually trying to interview Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, or they could have gone after Spagnuolo, the DC for the Chiefs. Nah, we'll hang on to Mike McCarthy, deny his opportunities to go and interview, and then not do anything the 1 week you could actually interview guys from the teams that got buys. And now they're behind on everything. I hate Jerry Jones, and the Cowboys are only going to get better once he finally leaves this earth. And it's really frustrating.
Oh. Okay, so you're not happy about the Mike McCarthy departure?
I'm not happy with the way that it was handled. I don't have a problem if you want to get rid of him. Just do it in a way that you can actually set your team up to be in a good spot. And they haven't done that, which then just tells me that they're going to overpay Micah Parsons and they're just going to be in the same spot they've been in. And in 3 years, there will be a new head coach because they're setting up this new head coach to fail.
What do you think of where do you think Mike ends up?
I think he's going to be in Chicago. I think they want a guy that's been a head coach, can kind of set the culture there.
I agree with you.
And then I think it's get them to being an actual playoff team, and then they'll make the splash of like a more unknown guy that gets them over the top.
So I agree with you. I just hate it. I do not want Mike McCarthy as the head coach.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine if I was you.
For multiple reasons, right? Obviously, he's a Packers legend. He has a street named after him across from the stadium where the NFL draft will take place in a couple months. And I want to root for Mike. And I've been able to root for him despite coaching a team I don't really like. I fully hate the Chicago Bears, as we've been over in the last few weeks. The other part of that is Mike McCarthy's a good head coach. Like, if I believe in somebody to go into Chicago and at least get them to what Hunter just said, like a playoff team level, a little bit of an improvement, maybe not like a bona fide divisional threat every year, but a 10, 11-win team year after year, if I believe in anybody to go into Chicago and do that despite the dysfunction around them, it's Mike McCarthy. So I hate the idea of Mike McCarthy to the Bears. I hate it.
He won 7 games with a backup quarterback for half the season, and those guys were still fighting for him even though their season was done. Like, CeeDee Lamb was playing through a shoulder injury and he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, could have easily shut it down and was like, no, I want Mike McCarthy back. I'm going to play for the guy and keep going out there. Like, he knows how to get guys to play for him. He did lose me as a coach when after the wild card loss to the Packers, all the players were like, yeah, we were exhausted going into that. Like, they were just physically burnt out from playing football because he does work his teams so hard in practice. That's where he lost me. But, I mean, he gets guys to play hard for him, and I think that's what the Bears need.
I discovered yesterday on KBN that, in a similar note, what I learned is Mike McCarthy gets a bad rap. I asked the guys, Joshy, I'd be curious on your take on this, and then Hunter, I will get to you. Who's the better NFL head coach, Mike McCarthy or Sean Payton?
I think they're exactly the same, pretty much.
Okay, so I agree, and that's why I asked the question. Hunter, do you have an answer there? I mean, obviously, all three of us are biased. All of our favorite teams have been coached by Mike McCarthy at one point. But if I said who's better, Mike McCarthy or Sean Payton, where would you go?
I would go Mike McCarthy. Also, the whole Bountygate thing still makes me feel a little icky about Sean Payton.
It's fair. That's fair.
He's icky.
He is icky. Obviously got Denver back to the postseason this year under first-year quarterback Bo Nix. But when I asked the guys that on the air yesterday, Brad, Kyle, and Ben all immediately responded Sean Payton without hesitation.
It's not ball knowers.
It's not ball knowers.
This is a real football show.
Correct. Even though I've been called an NFL fraud within the last week, this is the real football show.
Yeah. Well, you got me and Hunter here.
Real ball knowers. Yeah, you're right. My bad. I don't get the Mike McCarthy disrespect. The guy's a really good head coach, and I am scared at the idea that he becomes the head coach of the Bears. It takes a lot to succeed in Chicago. It does. I mean, we've seen how hard it is for all of these different head coaches and quarterbacks and everybody else at the helm the last decade plus. How impossible it is to succeed with that much mismanagement going on at the top. But I think Mike McCarthy's the guy for the job. And I'm afraid they're going to realize that and actually not shoot themselves in the foot for once.
I'm pretty sure McCarthy's the only coach that they're bringing in for an in-person interview as well.
Oh,
which says a lot about how they feel about him even before he interviews.
Great. Yep. Just an hour ago from Courtney Cronin of ESPN, Pro League source, the Chicago Bears are conducting their in-person interview with Mike McCarthy this afternoon. Their second known candidate to interview in person. Ron Rivera did it on Sunday, just a couple of days ago. McCarthy flew in private accommodations, which is a departure from previous team protocol. McCarthy is also a lead target for the Saints opening and is expected to interview later this week with the New Orleans Saints.
Is the Ron Rivera one just because he doesn't know how to use Zoom?
Probably.
I mean, you know who you could ask is Brad Nortman, who played for Ron Rivera. He might know his technological shortcomings. So there you go. That will do it for us today. We're back with you Friday. Ahead of divisional round weekend, and of course, we'll be back with you Monday again ahead of the national championship game. Enjoy your week. It's a weird
Monday's
one.
A holiday.
Oh yeah, we're off Monday. You're right. Totally forgot about that. MLK Day. We are off on Monday, so we're back Friday. We will preview the national championship game. We will preview divisional round weekend, and then we are off Monday. We will be back the following Wednesday. Good call, Hunter. Way to be quick on your feet there.
Well, thank you. I only knew that because just talked about it this morning. So.
Mike McCarthy is going to get the Bears job.
Yep.
I got to come to terms with that now. What a crappy week. Joshy, final thoughts?
I think he makes the Bears better, but I'm more worried about Ben Johnson being the head coach and what that takes him to.
So I agree in terms of he is the better offensive mind, Johnson is. But I think the Bears, more so than a great offensive mind, need stability. And a first-time head coach isn't going to provide instant stability. A guy that's been a head coach for, close to 2 decades in the NFL in total, is going to provide stability immediately. And I think, honestly, that's what they need right now in the short term, more than they need a great offensive mind. And they do need an offensive mind, which McCarthy obviously is, to bring Caleb Williams to the next level. I just think McCarthy checks more boxes right now for Chicago than Ben Johnson does, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think if you're the Bears, though, you're making a play for long term.
Yes.
You're going to have to kind of weather the storm here, get the team back going, and then have. I mean,
but do they have the patience for that? That's the part I don't know.
You'd hope so.
Right. I don't know.
But they've never gotten the guy. It's always the second tier of head coach hires that they're getting, sometimes even lower. So if they he's going to be expensive, very expensive. There's a reason he's playing those two teams against each other, the Raiders and the Bears. And it's not because he's truly hemming and hawing, I would think. I would think he's trying to get the most possible amount of money out of those people as he can.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Joshy, talk to you tonight on the Weekly Wager. We'll talk to you Friday on Mr. Relevant beginning at 12:30 Central. And, of course, available wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand. We will talk to you Friday. Peace.